Today, I'm talking to Annette Henry. Annette set up a plant-based education business with her husband, Graham. I've talked to them elsewhere on Upliness, so if you go and you'll find their interview where they talk about their story about how they got to where they are today. So thank you very much indeed, Annette, for agreeing to talk to me again.
It's a pleasure. Thank you
and
very much.
Today, you're going to be talking about the 6 S's to increase fruit and vegetables in your diet. Is that right?
That's right, yes. I'm going to start with what I think is possibly an obvious one, maybe not. It's smoothies, because this is a really good way of being able to get vegetables in particular into your diet that you ideally would like there to be in your diet, but they're not at the moment. And I know kale is an obvious one that people often talk about, green smoothies and putting kale in their smoothie. Kale can be a little bit bitter, so any fruit that you use in that smoothie can offset the bitterness of the kale, as long as you don't use too much. You can build up a little bit and start small, build it up, and that way you get to have this rather marvelous kale in your diet, which is nutritionally excellent. But there is another option that we found almost by accident, because it was the only thing left in our fridge one day when we wanted a green smoothie, and that was romaine lettuce. And it gave it a really nice texture almost. There was a smoothness to it, and it's not very strong, it's not bitter. And you can tell when you eat into a lettuce leaf like this, one of those with the thick spine, that there's actually oil. There is a little bit of oil in it, just about 10%, but this is omega-3 fats in a lettuce leaf. So that's quite encouraging. It won't make all the difference in the world. It's not enormous because it's only a lettuce leaf, but it's still there, as are a lot of minerals. It's a good option for incorporating into your diet, and it does work in a smoothie. We've also used celery and cucumber in our smoothies. Cucumber is possibly the easier option in terms of taste. It's just mainly watery and not a very strong taste, so that's easy. Celery, I would suggest, if you like it, go ahead with a full stalk. If you're not so keen, start small again. It's nice in that it adds a touch of saltiness to the smoothie, just a little bit, just to change the taste of it. But you do taste the celery, and if you don't like it, that probably is one to go small on. So the 4 greens I would suggest in a smoothie that we've tried and we really like: kale, romaine lettuce, celery, and cucumber. Mm-hmm. But then fruits, the things that kind of make those green vegetables even more easy to take on board, if you like, are bananas. We always put bananas in smoothies. They give a good texture as well. And of course, the extra sweetness and the B vitamins and all the wonderful things that bananas have, the fiber and so on. We often use 1 or maybe 2 dates as well for extra sweetness, especially if we are using kale, just to offset some of that bitterness. Berries, we often put berries in. They're lovely. And a citrus fruit, we often choose a citrus fruit. Lime works really well. Lime's lovely in a smoothie. And orange is really nice too. And a slightly surprising one maybe, I don't know if it's obvious to most people, pear. So a really ripe pear, that really gives something nice to a smoothie. I will see that we tend to use a very powerful blender. So that will also make a difference to what you're getting from your smoothie, and depending on what you put in it. On very rare occasions, we've put beetroot in ours. That needs a very powerful blender. If it's a less powerful one, it won't work very well. But that's another option as well for a very red smoothie, if that's something that you fancy. But berries may do that too. Smoothies can also be thickened with, for example, chia seeds. They don't add too much fat, but they do give you some omega-3 fats. So they're quite I'm thinking because most people tend to have these at breakfast time, then it's not too much of a deluge at one go. Cashews work well too, but a lot of cashews will probably be a bit much first thing in the morning for some people. So that might be one to consider. Flax seeds would possibly work too, and they all get ground up, so then you get the benefit of, you actually get the omega fats out of them. The other recommendation I would make personally in terms of smoothies is, because you've got such a condensation of nutrients all in one go, probably it's best to put it in a bowl and take it with eat it with a spoon. Otherwise, again, you're loading your body with quite a lot at one go, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. Whereas if you ideally give yourself the time, I know one of the appealing factors of a smoothie is you can gulp it right down and off you go. Maybe if you need to do it that way, can you take it with you and drink it a little more slowly? That might be an option.
Right.
So that's mainly what we've got on smoothies. It does work to get more veg into your diet. It definitely works. You're getting it for breakfast. Most people would never have think about when we were growing up, kale for breakfast. I don't think so. You wouldn't imagine doing that, but you can do that with a smoothie, and it's perfectly acceptable and can taste really lovely. The next one is actually very, very similar, but it's on the other end of the spectrum in terms of sweet and savoury. This is savoury because this is soups. You can do something very similar with soups. Again, we're very fortunate to have a powerful blender. And for those people that have got this kind of blender, and I'm talking Vitamix here, we've got an Omni blend, that sort of blender. You can put in vegetables as dense, if you like, as a parsnip or carrot, and water and whatever else you want to flavour it. And again, maybe some chia seeds for extra thickness, or cashew nuts or whatever. And your blender will blend it up. And if you leave it going for about 6 minutes or so, the base where the motor is will warm it up to such an extent that you can eat it. It's ready to eat. That's really fast food. A less powerful blender won't do that, and you probably break it. So think twice about that one.
Yes.
However, you can do it a couple of ways. You can use less dense vegetables. So certainly tomatoes will work in any blender. NutriBullets and so on, they'll manage it perfectly well. We've also done in the summer, we've done pea soup with pea and mint soup, and we had that cold. It was lovely. I don't know quite where we found that recipe now, but that was a lovely one to do. So that's actually it's another one that if you, depending on what kind of soup you're having, frozen peas, very, very quick, throw them in there. They might as well be in there. They're ready to go, kind of thing. You can also add the hot water, depending on what kind of jug you've got. Just add hot water and blend it that way. So in a way, we are talking here mostly about raw soups. They actually are very, very tasty. And if you can blend it effectively, so it's nice and creamy, they're really enjoyable. But they don't have to be that way. And you can still prepare it this way if you maybe steam a few of your vegetables first, like the parsnip. If you want to do parsnip or carrot or beetroot or whatever, steam it first so it's softer, so your blender will cope with it. And then you've already got some warmth in it as well. Excuse me. So soups and smoothies are actually very similar. One is just the opposite of the other in terms of sweet and savoury. The third one I've got here is salads. And I know this one sounds amazingly obvious. And I can almost see people's eyes rolling because salads, you know, I suppose most of us grew up with salad being limp lettuce, maybe just the 1 or 2 leaves, tomato and cucumber, and that was it. Or it's a side dish, and there's a main player that's much more exciting. So salad has got such a bad reputation, I think, or can have with some people, and it really doesn't need to. Salads can be unbelievably exciting. We have salads frequently. In fact, we tend to have what you might call a salad probably twice a day, and it can have so much variety in it. And they can be all raw, they can be all cooked, they can be a mix of the two. They can certainly have grains in, they can have beans in, and I'm inclined to say, if your salad isn't exciting, you either possibly haven't got enough ingredients in your fridge and your store cupboard, or you need a little bit of inspiration. And there are some really good books available now to give you some ideas about how to make some really exciting salads so that it can be different. 7 different salads for over a week, easily. It can easily be done, and keep tweaking with it, keep playing with ideas, put things in that you really like, so that you will also eat the things that you're trying to incorporate into your diet. So salads, definitely. And it's another way. We're talking a lot here, well, I'm talking a lot here about vegetables, but actually a salad is a good way to incorporate fruit as well. You may or may not have ever tried putting fruit in a salad. We quite often have mango and orange in with our leaves because they work very well together. They're extremely digestible together. and of course nutritionally quite high. Lots of different values in that as well. So that can either be a main dish or it can be a starter, and it's lovely. It's quite exciting. It's all fruity and sweet, but you've got the contrasting bitterness of the green leaves as well. So that's a definite recommendation. Steaming, I've referred to.
Before you move on to steaming, I just think, I mean, one thing that works well for some people who are trying to lose weight is to start meals with a salad.
Yes.
Because they're nutrient dense, which is great if you do them properly, and so you're filling yourself up with some really nutritious stuff, so that hopefully you'll want less of the stuff that follows. So for some people that can work well as part of their weight loss strategy, I think.
I think it's brilliant. Yes, it definitely works well. Yeah. Yes, you wouldn't eat so much afterwards, most probably. I think I need some fruit on my throat now. Steaming, I was going to move on to. We really prioritise steaming in terms of our cooking. It's mostly steaming for the simple reason that it doesn't lose as much of the nutrient value. It's probably one of the best ways of cooking vegetables. And also there's no chance of any of the cooked food toxins that are known about. Whether there are unknown ones, I don't know, because it doesn't reach 120 degrees centigrade. So it's got to be one of the best ways, I think, of preparing vegetables. And also it's quite fast. There's no great long time there with steaming. So that's something that can be done. It isn't really as a meal suggestion as such, although it can be. We're at the moment, we're living somewhere where we've got a real shortage of space. And so we tend to often put things in the steamer all together. So we make a meal more or less in the steamer and then add something to it before we eat it. Just put the vegetables such as potatoes or sweet potatoes or carrots or whatever, the denser root vegetables tend to go in first, let them steam for a little bit. And then the next vegetables, the lighter ones, they will go quite quickly. Try mushrooms. Steamed mushrooms are a delight if you've not tried them, because they get so plump and juicy. They're really lovely. And it's just such an easy thing to do. We make a lot of quick vegetable curries that way. It all goes in one pot, one steamer, and then we stir in the curry sauce, and it's ready. So it's so easy. And sometimes we do our salads that way too. We have part steamed, part raw salads and bring those things together. So steaming is very, very easy. It can be very easy. There's not a lot to learn. And I do know what I'm talking about here, because cooking is not something that I have been blessed with as a talent in my life. And steaming is something I can do well. I'm reasonably good at steaming and putting together raw ingredients. I can do that and successfully as well. Going along with all of this is probably really relevant to bring in the fifth one here, which is spices. If you think about it, any foods that we've liked throughout our lives are very often, not always, but often associated with spices and herbs that appeal to us and make that food familiar and likable. Well, there's nothing to stop you reusing those same spices, not on the foods that you no longer want to eat, but on the new foods where appropriate, and have those familiar tastes. And you probably will find it tweaking and playing with this a little bit, experimenting, you can have something that you can really enjoy. I know if you eat something like tofu or tempeh, you can flavor it very, very easily with spices and herbs and get it to replicate something that is familiar and comfortable to you, because there's a lot of comfort and emotion in food as well, and it's important to do that. And also it makes the more bitter vegetables a little bit more palatable as well. So spices you must have spices in your kitchen. Please have spices in your kitchen. They're great in their own right as well, because if you think about it, we often hear about spices like turmeric being anti-inflammatory. Some of them are antibacterial, some of them aid digestion, and they've just got so many of their own attributes that it's so worth having them and incorporating them into all the meals that you have. I didn't say anything earlier in the smoothies, but there's nothing wrong with putting ginger in your smoothie. If you like that, ginger is great because it enhances sweetness, because we associate ginger and cinnamon, for that matter, with sweetness. So if you're trying to reduce the sugar content of anything you're eating, and you like ginger or you like cinnamon, adding those in will enable you very often to slightly reduce your sugar, because you get that sensation. Your brain is telling you it's sweet, I think. So rumor has it, try it, see if it works. That's my suggestion there. And then the last one is sauces, and this kind of brings it all together, really, especially in terms of the salads and the steaming. And this is where the spices can really play a big role. But we found that it's much easier than we realized, because we now eat whole foods rather than any plant food combination kind of thing, where it is whole foods, and we put together whole foods even to make dressings and sauces, and that's entirely possible to do. They can be thickened with something as unusual as a courgette or part of a courgette. Lemon juice plays a part, but the spices too, and sun-dried tomatoes, so you don't even need to add salt because they're already salty. Miso is always good in a sauce, or certainly even in some of the dressings that we do. We don't buy salt. We use something that's already salty, and that's enough. Miso, I suppose, technically is not a whole food, but yeah, you have to make these judgments occasionally. Some of them, it is not highly processed either, so it's just coming to grips with these things. And the sauces can sometimes make or break it. If it's a good sauce, you're going to eat it, you're going to love it, because whatever you're eating is smothered in this sauce that you love. So I strongly recommend sauces, getting to grips with making simple sauces. They don't need to be complex. And if in the meantime that's proving difficult, there are a few good ones that you can buy. There's nothing wrong with buying some and check the ingredients, make sure it's something that you want to be eating. But if that's going to make the difference between you eating that, or kale, for example, or Brussels sprouts, or whatever it is you want to eat but you're not enjoying so much, then buy a sauce initially and get going that way. It can always be done. There are always little hacks, little tricks you can be doing. But they're really the 6 S's for successful fruit and vegetable eating that I've come up with.
Thank you. That's really good, because it's very practical. People, there's so much in the press. People know that they need to be eating more fruit and vegetables. A lot of people struggle to even get to 5 a day, although now it's very much being recommended that people should be eating 10 portions of fruit and veg a day. And that my understanding is that they set it as 5 because they thought they might be able to get people to eat 5, and that 5 would show some benefit. But to get the real benefit, you need to be looking at 10 portions of fruit and veg a day.
As they do in Japan, is it? I think Japan does have 10, and they seem to fare better on it. Right,
yeah. So I can imagine people struggling with 5 go, oh no, I can't do 10. And, obviously you've got to work up to it, I guess. You've got to find ways of incorporating more fruit and veg. And you've given us some really practical, easy, can-do approaches. So that's great. Before you go, just remind us about your website address, will you?
Okay, it's Henry and Henry EU, so as in short for Europe, henryandhenryeu.com.
Great.
And we do have a summary of this on there if anybody wants to look. It's free for everybody to see that particular page, and you don't even need to sign up for free membership for that page.
Right.
So it's there if anybody wants it.
Okay, well, that's great. So thank you very much indeed.
Well, thank you for inviting me.